You're probably asking for the how can I study for this architecture exam in Italy? What is TIL-A exam? What is really going on inside this exam? Why like PoliMi and PoliTo doing this exam for once in a year? Every year we are preparing students for to get an acceptance from the PoliMi and the PoliTo in the architecture degree. And what is arch test? Like how can I study this, etc. So this video we will be talking about this exam. Hi everyone, this is Omer. I'm studying at Politecnico di Torino and this is my last year in computer science. Me and my friends decided to just share a video of our architecture examination course about the Politecnico di Torino and also for the Politecnico di Milano. As you guys know, this exam held once in a year in PoliMi and PoliTo. So we just want to create this video to help the students who are like trying to apply. I have a couple friends in Politecnico di Milano. They are architecture students. One of my friend, he just graduated from the PoliMi Master degree architect. As you guys know, there is nothing in the internet, like especially in the YouTube, that about this exam. There is not that much big resources and also like for the free resources. So right now we just solved some exam type of questions for share you guys like what is really going on inside this exam, and also especially how an architect student with the master's degree from the PoliMi approaching these questions. I know some especially for some math part of the exam is sometimes can be easy, but the main point to getting an acceptance from the PoliMi and also for the PoliTo from the Department of Architecture in the bachelor is to solving the architecture questions in the exam, because those exams are not just evaluating your like math skills, they are just especially just focusing on your like architecture knowledge that you know, especially if you're not from the Italy, so you may having some troubles like studying in the exam. We just want to just share some small portion of our course so that you can just understand what is really going on inside the course. If you are just interested in the course, you can just see the details below in the YouTube video's description. Since 2 years, like we are preparing students for the architecture. That will be it. Like I hope this video finds you well. Please enjoy and see you guys around. Ciao.
Okay, good morning, everybody. This is going to be our first lesson of history and general culture. So just to give you a little bit of a structure, since this is the first lesson, it's going to be a bit different. Usually for me, it's completely fine if you keep your cameras closed, but for this case only, I would like you to open them because how this is going to go is that I'm going to introduce myself very shortly. Then I would like you to do the same. I'll read your names in the alphabetical order. And then if you could just tell me like very shortly, like, where you're from, why do you want to go to PoliMi or PoliTo, or which one? And why do you think architecture is a good fit for you? So something very brief, because we have this session, we have a lot of people. So it might take a long time. And then I'll be asking your scores. I hope everybody calculated them. I tried to write it as many times as I could. But if you haven't calculated your score, please do so now, because after everybody introduces themselves, I will ask for your scores, and then I'll put them down. And one final thing, which I'll probably repeat afterwards, is that if you haven't solved the test, okay, because on the drive, whether you're taking this course or the next course or both, you had to solve one or two tests. And if you haven't solved it, then you can stay for the meeting part for this introduction phase. But then afterwards, I think it will be best if you just leave the call and solve the test during the lesson time, because I'll be explaining the test, so it's of no use if you stay and see the explanations. Which brings me to the fact that I need to underline that we don't have too many resources on this test, right? I mean, it's quite limited what we have. So every test is very precious. So please don't waste any test, in the sense that always time yourself, always do it with the procedure I sent on the group chat. and yeah, things like that. Because if you waste one of those tests, then you'll be wasting a precious resource. Okay, so before I start, can everybody hear me clearly? Is everything clear?
Yes.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So, I'll just briefly introduce myself. A lot of you probably do know, but my name is Sarp. I started PoliMi in 2019, my bachelor's there. Scored the second highest score on the exam of 2019. Then I had to study really hard because at the time there was a crazy requirement uh, that if you needed to get the scholarship, which depends more on your financials than your academic, let's say, success. But back then in 2019, there was a requirement where you had to score a very, very high grade to get it in the first year. So I studied very, very hard. Lucky for you that that doesn't exist anymore. It used to be 54 out of 90, the score, which might not sound like it's too high, but I got 59 and I was placed second. So that tells you like how difficult that test was in 2019. And yeah, I finished my bachelor's in in 2022, started my master's again in PoliMi in the same year, 2022. PoliMi offers you this chance where if your average is higher than 27 out of 30, grades in PoliMi are out of 30. Don't ask me why. Then you can automatically start your master's there. So that's what I did. I did 1 semester of exchange in Lund University in Sweden. I definitely recommend it to everyone. Going on Erasmus, going on exchange. Definitely also Sweden. It was a great time. And yeah, I very recently graduated December 11th of last year, and currently I work as an architect in Milan. Okay, so let's start with who do I have first? I apologize in advance if I mispronounce any names, okay, because some of them are quite difficult. So please don't hate me. Okay, I have Adam.
Hi.
Hello.
First off, I just want to say I'm sorry. I know I don't have a camera right now.
It's okay. Don't
It's
worry about it.
unfortunate. I have one on order, so don't worry. Um, yes, my name is Adam Blah. I'm from the Caribbean, more specifically from Trinidad and Tobago. So I'm really interested in architecture, especially in Italy, for the culture difference, the experience, and starting a life there, basically.
Okay, that sounds great. Thanks, Adam. Okay, I have Sude.
Okay.
Or maybe it's because you have you're unmuted. Maybe that's why, because you begin with an S. Okay, wait, I'll just mute you. Okay, I have Adine or Adine.
Adine.
Adine. Okay.
I'm from Armenia. I'm from an architecture family. Like my mother, my grandfather, all of them are architectures, my brother, sister as well. So I decided to go by that way as well. Also, I did a bachelor in data science in American University of Armenia. So I'm planning in the future to combine data science and architecture together.
Okay. Sounds solid. No, I think it's always great to continue the family business.
Yeah, kind of.
It's something yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Then I have here Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm 17. I'm from Malaysia. And I want to do architecture in Italy because I also did a student exchange like 2 months ago, and I went to Italy. I love the people, love the culture, so I want to study architecture there.
Perfect. All right, great. Then I have Anastasia.
Hello, I'm Anastasia. I'm from Romania, and I want to start study architecture because I'm really passionate about art, but also physics and math, and I feel like it's a domain which combines both of them very nicely. And yeah,
Okay,
love
perfect.
it.
I feel like this is going to be a very common answer
Yeah.
further on, but I mean it's very valid. Okay, thank you. Then I have Anna. There's a lot of Annas. So I'll say Anna A.
Me, maybe?
Yes.
Ahmedin. Uh, Hello. I'm Anna. I'm from the country of Georgia, not in the US. And
It
I
it
want
was you
to,
who wrote it, right? You wrote like Georgia, the country.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
we're all European, so we don't think of this the state, you know?
I don't know. Maybe I know a lot of Europeans who don't
Oh, I
know
think
about this
so.
country. So
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Well, I'm Turkish, so I know. Okay.
Ah, well, I want to study architecture because, first of all, it's incredibly interesting. But as well as Adin, I also have like my father is an architect, and he's I love the way he works, and I just want to follow his steps, I guess. So yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Great. Thank you. Then Anna B.
Hi, I'm Ana. I am from Brazil and I want to study architecture in Italy because I've been here in Torino for a few months and I really enjoy staying here. And I always knew I wanted to study architecture. I don't know why, since I was very young. So I didn't never thought about doing something else.
Perfect. That's a great answer. I had no idea what I wanted to do as a kid, so I really like when people say they do. Okay, perfect. Then I have here Aisu.
Hi,
Hello.
I am 18 and I'm from Azerbaijan. As soon as I get my visa, I will start my first year as an architecture student in Poland. And I don't know why I'm interested in this field because I didn't think much about it before.
I think you should. I think you should. But the thing is, you might also figure it out when you study it, you know, because some things you never know. I mean, I myself, for example, I studied 2 years of engineering in Canada, in Vancouver, BC, and then I was like, this is not for me. I mean, I don't want to speak for too long, but there were a few things that happened that put me in a situation where I had to realize that it wasn't for me. But some things, no matter how many times you plan it, you yeah, you just realize some things after. Alrighty, thank you. Then I have here Aziret. Aziret, right?
Oh, hello, hello.
Hello.
I'm Aziret. I'm from Kyrgyzstan. I think I really want to study architecture because my aunt was an architect, and also I've been to Italy a couple of times. Yeah, that's all.
Perfect. So many, how do I put this? Family architecture businesses. Okay. Okay, we have two Barbaras. Barbara L.
Okay, hello, my name is Barbara. I am Polish, but I live in Belgium, and I want to study architecture because it just combines my interests really well, and I like both the design part and the construction of a building also interests me. So that's it.
Perfect. Great. Okay, and now Barbara Z.
Hi, I am also from Poland, from Kraków, but I currently study in Italy, in Bologna. I'm on my third year of economics and finance, but I don't really like my degree. That's why I'm changing.
Oh, wow.
And it just suddenly clicked like at the maybe like half year ago that yeah, it's just not for me. And I always loved architecture. I love art. I love drawing, and I'm also good at math. So I think it's just like a perfect degree for me. And yes, that's a story.
Cool, very cool. You know, I'm actually really into economics and finance, but I didn't do it. I got a question for you actually. How is studying in Bologna?
I mean, I love the city. I'm not sure if I really like the Italian type of approach because they're mostly lectures and we don't have any like classes that require attendance or something. They're just lectures and it's like 120 people in the classroom and they're 3 hours long, each of them. So it's just impossible to be focused for the whole time unless you're like really interested in the subject. So if we have like two subjects in a row, it's 6 hours of constant lecture of someone talking. But yeah, like except for that, Bologna is an amazing city to live for a student. And I really enjoyed it from that side.
Well, yeah, I heard a lot of good things about Bologna, but yeah, they do that sometimes. Like we had a what was the class called? I forgot. It wasn't mechanics, but it was like structural design or something like that. I forgot the name. But the guy was just yeah, he would just have a lecture like 3 hours, and he wouldn't do any breaks. So he would be like, "Can you make a break?" But yeah, they do that sometimes for some reason. Okay,
Also, sorry, I was wondering,
yeah,
do they have a lot of lectures that are they mostly do like labs or lectures?
it's
Do,
both.
do you
I
have
would
like
say it's
okay.
both. But we have because it really depends if it's you have like design studios, which I guess you could describe more as a lab given that you know you design things and you have reviews and et cetera, et cetera. And those lessons they're quite long on the timetable, but then most of it you just work. You know, you just like try to get the things done for the review. But then you also have like other lessons like math and physics, and those are more like lectures, let's say. Or for example, if you have a history of art, history of architecture classes, first year, those are also, for example, like lectures. But I mean, how else would it be, right? Okay. Um, we have Beate.
Yes, hi. So I'm Beate and I'm Latvian, but I live in Luxembourg. I really want to study at PoliMi because it's a creative space to design the future. That's what I want to do. And Italy is just my favorite vacation country. Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people would agree with that. Yeah. Alrighty. And who else do I have? I have Bora.
Hi, I'm from Turkey and I'm studying interior artist. So I decided to get architecture. I
Okay.
changed. Yes,
All right. Perfect.
thank you.
Okay. Then we have Bruno.
Hi, I'm Bruno. I'm from Mexico, and I would like to study architecture because I think it's a nice combination between beauty and functionality, and as well as I think everybody else. I love Italy. I have Italian friends, and like it's just a country I would like to study in.
Perfect. Bruno, how is the time zone working out for you? Are you somewhere close to Europe? Or are you in?
I'm in Wales right now.
Ah, okay. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that's why.
All righty. Okay. Catalina.
Hello, I'm Catalina. I'm
Hello.
from Romania. It's okay, no worries. As many other people said, I was passionate about the mixture of science and art in architecture. And as much as I would love math or physics, I've realized that I need an artistic outlet. So architecture seems like the perfect fit.
Perfect. I forgot to tell you because me and Catalina had a short meeting before. I mean, actually, it wasn't short. It was like it was like 50 minutes, I think. But last year there was a student called Catalina. She studies at PoliTo now. Uh, so yeah, but she wasn't Romanian. She was Spanish, if I'm not mistaken. Spanish or Mexican. I always confuse it, so I don't know. I think she was Spanish. She was definitely EU citizen. That's what I remember. Okay. Dameli? Dameli.
Hello, I'm Damli. I from Kazakhstan, but now I live in UK doing my foundation art. And I was firstly interested in fashion design, but then I decided to take something more difficult and decided to take architecture because I also was interested in it.
Okay, sounds great. When you said something more difficult, it made me think like, because in the Easterner countries, like let's say also Turkey, like Azerbaijan, Iran, Kazakhstan. I don't know. My personal experience, also being from Turkey, is that your parents sometimes push you around a bit. When you want to say something like, "I want to study fashion design," they're like, "No, you can't do that. Do something more concrete." I don't know if that's what happened to you, but just saying. Okay.
Mhm.
Who do I have? Dina.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Madina and I'm from Kazakhstan too. I'm just interested in architecture because I just love making art and decided to to choose this degree. And I hope to broaden my knowledge here and try myself abroad.
Perfect. Sounds great. Abroad experience is always
Experience,
better. Huh?
what?
Oh,
You
I
asked
said
something?
no, I was just commenting. Like going abroad is always a good idea, I think. Alrighty. Ebru.
So hi, my name is Ebru. I'm from Turkey also, and my mom is an architect and my father is a civil engineer. So I kind of born with it too. And I studied interior architecture for a year. Then I quit it. I dropped school to focus on this. So yeah.
Perfect. Man, I wish my mom was an architect. Okay. Okay.
She helps a
That's,
lot.
huh?
She helps a lot.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh my God.
Perfect. Great. Thanks for sharing. Okay. Karina.
Yeah, hello. So my name is Karina. I'm from Sofia, Bulgaria. I'm 18 years old, my last year in high school. My father is also an architect, so he kind of inspired me to do the same thing. And I love Italy because I have some relatives in there, and yeah, that's it.
Great. I never had so many architect parents in a course, I think. Okay. Kinga.
Hi, I'm Polish and I actually study architecture, so I'm considering the transfer from my university because I'm already like more an architect than a high school student. So yeah, and I have to also like write the exam, so that's like the only chance that I can kind of have time for learning that because I'm still studying. And yeah.
Sounds solid. Perfect. Lisa. Wait, you said your microphone doesn't work. Okay, never mind. Maya.
Hi, I'm Maya. I'm currently in 12th grade, so I will graduate this year. I study fine arts, so I really like designing things, and that's why I want to choose architecture. As well, my father is an architect, and I have always liked his works. And also, I have friends in Italy, in PoliTo, so I won't be like I will have people there.
Right? No, sounds great. Quick note since everyone's mentioning Polito. I mean, usually this is a recommendation, but I think it should be a must that every single one of you take both tests, okay? Because PoliMi has a test called the Arch test or Arch Ed test. Everyone has a different name for it. And PoliTo also has its own test called TIL-A test, right? And they're usually like back to back to each other. Like if one is 24th of July, the other one is 25th of July. So you should take both, in my opinion. Last year, what I've seen from students is that no matter how good you are, you might get a terrible grade from one test, and you might get a great grade from another test. So it really depends on a lot of different factors. So in order to increase your chances to the maximum, you definitely should take both tests, I think. Um, the thing is, before anyone asks this, I'll just clarify. The procedures for this year's test will be announced in May. Okay, mid-May usually it's announced. I think this year was like May 18th or something. Where they'll tell us which test is going to be online, which test is going to be in person, if it's going to be in person. Last year, only PoliTo's test for EU citizens was in person. So a lot of students had to go to Torino for that. Um, but yeah, we'll know for sure mid-May. Just keep in mind, I mean, I'll talk about this many times again and again, but since you have to travel to Turin in person, to Torino in person to take the test, the grades, or let's say the scores this year for PoliTo were significantly lower for EU citizens than it was for non-EU citizens. So I feel like if you can go to Torino to take the test, it's significantly to your advantage to do so. Okay, before anyone asks me any questions, we will definitely exceed our time. So if you have any questions, please write them down and then send me a WhatsApp message, preferably on the group chat so I answer and everybody sees the answer. Okay, Mert.
My name is Mert. I am from Turkey. I'm 20 years old. I want to study architecture because I want to make design in the future, design job, and I like Italy. So I want to be architecture.
Great, perfect. I guess everybody loves Italy. Okay, Milena.
Hi, my name is Milena. I'm from Romania. And the reason I want to study architecture is because I've been passionate about the subject for a long time. And also, I like the experience of studying abroad. I feel like it gives you a lot of opportunities and it gives you experience and everything.
Yeah, I completely agree. Alrighty. Um, Mirjavad.
It's Mirjavad. Hello, my name is Mirjavad. I'm from Azerbaijan, and currently I am an exchange student in the Ohio, United States. Um, I want to study an architecture because I'm really passionate about this subject itself, and I want to really get well informed about the background of architecture and just do a research on this subject um, as much as I can.
Perfect. Perfect. Great. Very interesting that you're in the US right now with all the turmoil that's been there. But yeah, perfect. Okay. What do you do in the US? You said you're in Ohio and you do what?
I am an exchange student currently in high school.
Oh, okay,
Like
okay,
I'm
okay,
doing my
okay.
12th year.
Okay. Great, great. Sounds great. Okay. Uh, Natalia.
So, hi, I'm Natalia. I'm from Warsaw, Poland, and I wanted to study architecture in Italy, particularly, mainly because of the culture and the language, and about the organization of the course, because I prefer it more in comparison to, for example, Spain. So, yeah.
Solid. Solid. Then I have Nehir.
Hi, my name is Nehir Asal. I prefer Asal much more. I'm from
Okay.
Turkey. Well, considering all the other jobs, architecture seems just suits me more. And I love Italy. I love their life actually. So that's why.
Perfect. Then there is another Nehir.
Hi, I'm Nihir. This is actually my second year studying for this exam. Um, I like architecture because I can see myself in another job. And I took some drawing lessons and prepared a portfolio for another country already. And I really enjoyed preparing this. That's why.
Okay. Nicole.
Hello, I'm from Romania. I'm currently studying business management in UK, which is very different, I know, but this just made me realize how much I'm passionate about architecture and that I really want to follow this career path in the future. So that's why.
Great. The UK accent always intimidates me. I honestly couldn't have done it myself, I think. I think I would just mess it up. Okay. Octavian.
Hello, I'm Octavian. I'm from Moldova. I live in France and I'm currently studying in Belgium, but I didn't really enjoy my study, so I want to switch to a English degree in probably architecture because I realized that I enjoy it a lot. I like the design aspect, and I've always liked to visit, see buildings, and I actually like to help make them too.
That's great. That was a great answer. I thought about the same thing when I decided to switch from engineering. I was like, what do I like? And then I realized when we're going through a city, I'm just like, all I'm looking at is like buildings and, like criticizing buildings or like thinking about them. And then I remember I told my dad, and he was like, that's why you want to be an architect? And I was like, what else would it be? I don't know. We had a big argument when I wanted to switch from engineering to architecture. But I mean, I guess it's normal. And also very interesting name you have. We will talk about Octavian in
Oh yeah,
late Republic, early Empire,
yeah, no,
Roman Empire. Yeah.
they always tell me, yeah, we're not a lot of Octavians in the world, I guess. Even in yeah, even in
I would say so.
even in Moldova, we're like I've never met another Octavian, I guess. So yeah, in France they were very surprised.
Okay. When you said you're from Moldavia, I was like, okay, maybe it's a common name there, but I guess not.
I
Okay.
mean, no, really, yeah.
Okay. Um, oh my God, okay. How do I say this name? Quinn? 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 Sorry, I might feel like I'm messing it up.
Okay. My name is Queen, and
Okay.
okay, my name is Queen, and I'm from Vietnam. I'm actually studying interior design, but my dad used to study architecture, and he hated it so much. He forced me to change into interior design. But I think I should try to apply to PoliMi, mostly because of the affordable tuition fee and living expenses.
Okay, sounds great. Could you repeat your name one more time for me?
Oh, my name is Quinn.
Quinn. Okay, I wasn't so far off. Okay. Alrighty. Ralitza.
Hi, my
Hello.
name is Ralica. I am from Bulgaria. I'm from Burgas, from the beach, and my interest in architecture is for a long time. My both parents are actually civil engineers, but I am from the other side, from the designing part. And I have actually already studied 2 years in the Eindhoven University of Technology. I am currently still here, but I don't like the fact that we are more concentrated in civil engineering and more in the physics and mechanical parts than in the architectural one. I have enjoyed the project a lot. The university is amazing, but I think that the things that I want more are in the Politecnico University. And yeah, I mean, I have a lot of friends in Italy. So, and I've traveled to Italy a lot of times, so I kind of love the country more than the Netherlands. Here is very cold and it's surprisingly sunny right now.
Okay. You said you
Yes.
study at TU Eindhoven and you study
Yes.
architecture?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Do you know Daria? But she
Yes,
just
I know
started this
Daria.
year.
Yes, I know Daria. She's also from Bulgaria.
Wait, is she? No, no, no. This is from
No?
this Daria is from Romania.
Oh, okay, this Daria is from Bulgaria, the one that I know. I didn't know where actually she's gonna go for her master's. But yeah,
Okay,
I just wanna
okay.
finish my bachelor in Torino.
Okay, I'll tell you guys a cautionary story, cautionary tale. So there was this student, Daria, last year, and now I mean it all worked out. Now she's in TU Eindhoven, studying architecture. But she scored. What did she score? She scored like I think a 31 on the test. Okay, so for PoliMi, she scored 31. Then that score was a bit low compared to 2023 scores. So I told her like there isn't much of a chance, but you never know. Maybe the scores fall a lot because every year it's different. So like you have a like plus and minus kind of an idea of a score, but you never know the exact score since it's a ranking test, right? So I was like, okay, we don't know yet, so like keep showing interest, okay? Because for Polyme's test, you have to show interest to be eligible for each subsequent ranking. It turns out she didn't show interest, okay? She was like, this is not going to work out anyways. So she didn't show interest, and the lowest score for Piacenza, the second campus of Polyme, was 30.75 for EU students. So if she did show interest, she would have gotten in to Polimi Piacenza, but she didn't. So just saying this as a cautionary tale, always show interest. I think for PoliTo, you don't have to do anything. It's like automatic that they put you to the next ranking. But for Polimi, you have to always click a button that says, yes, I would like to be considered for the next ranking. So always do that. Anyways, don't worry, you don't have to like remember this now. I'm gonna be saying it like 84 more times. Still just saying it. Okay, I have here Ruben.
Hello, my name is Ruben. I'm from Armenia. Well, none of my parents are architects, but I had the passion for it since a very young age. And after my trip to Italy, I thought that there is no better place than Italy to study architecture.
Yeah, you would really think so. Okay. Salih.
Hi, I'm Salih. I'm from Turkey. I've been studying interior architecture for 2 years now, and when I look at what my friends from architecture major are studying, sorry for my, terribly sorry for my bad voice.
No, no worries.
When I looked, can I be later?
Yeah, 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 don't worry, don't
Sorry,
worry.
yeah.
You drink some water, I'll talk to somebody else. Okay, Shewal.
Hi everyone, my name is Shevan and I'm from Turkey too. I'm currently landscape architecture student and I want to study architecture in Italy because I'm really keen on drawing and creating something about every department, about everything. And that's why, and also I love Italy culture, especially food, and probably architecture and Italy for best country and department for me. And yeah, that's all.
Perfect. Sounds great. Sude.
Hi, my name is Sude from Turkey. I want to study architecture because I like to make designs, and I want Italy because I think Italy is perfect place for it. And I don't have any relatives or something who are architects, but I really want to be an architect. I choose myself.
Okay, perfect. Sounds great. I just realized it's like 11:40, so it's gonna be a long lesson today, but it's okay. I mean, it's normal. Okay, Salih, you let me know when you wanna speak, okay?
I'm okay now. Okay, I
Okay.
came back. Okay. So basically, I've had enough of interiors now for 2 years, and architecture major just seems way better for studying. And I said, well, Italy is cheaper and it's better than here. So let's go to Italy. That's all.
Perfect reasoning. Okay. I do think architecture makes more sense because when you study interiors, you can only do interiors. But then if you study architecture, you can do both.
Well,
So it's
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Most
No,
people doesn't do interiors. They go to lighting design or furniture design after studying interior architecture.
I guess, yeah. Anyways, okay. Tommy.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my name is Tommy. I'm Canadian Portuguese, and I've always liked architecture, but I'm hoping this course will give me a better idea of whether I'm willing to fully commit.
Okay. Well, I hope it does.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay. Yosun.
Hi, I'm Yosun. I'm from Turkey. I want to study architecture because my father was an engineer, so I was kind of surrounded by the work. And I'm currently at the Torino right now. I'm living for 4 months. It's gonna be five in end of the March, so that's why I really want PoliTo to study.
Okay, perfect. It's nice that you like Turin. I think it's a very gorgeous city.
Yeah,
Very
it's really
underrated
nice.
city. Actually, if
Yeah,
you go
it's
to my Instagram, you can see
mhm.
that there's a post that says Torino is really underrated because it really is. No one like talks about it, but it's a great city. Also, a
Yeah,
lot
I
of things
agree.
like a lot of Baroque architecture that
Mhm.
we'll cover is in Torino. Okay. Now I'm gonna be asking your scores. Again, just a reminder that if you because I know that a lot of people joined quite late. So if you didn't have the chance to solve the test that's going to be explained now, it doesn't make any sense for you to stay after this point. So if I were you, I would quit the lesson, solve the test, uh, and then um, and then watch the recording of the explanations of this lesson. And yeah, that should be it. Okay, now I'm gonna ask everybody's scores. So Adam, what did you get?
I got 22.5 out of 50.
Okay, okay. That's a bit under average, but let's see. You never
Yes.
know where it goes up to. Okay, Adina.
28.
Okay, that's more like the average. Okay, great. Alex,
37.
37. Wow,
Yeah.
that's great. That's a great starting grade. I mean, for reference, you need something like low 30s to get in. Like for Piacenza, you need something like 31. For PoliMi and PoliTo, you need something like 33. So 37 is quite solid. Well done. Okay, Anastasia.
I got 25 because I did it yesterday at like 9 p.m.
It's
So
okay. It's okay.
I
You don't
couldn't
have to
really
justify it.
concentrate.
It's okay. It's okay. Also, I mean, a lot of things, like a lot of little tips and strategies, improve your grade a lot. So it
Yeah,
also
also
depends on your.
it was the first time I took a test like that,
Mhm.
and I was like not, I don't know, aware of like the wording or whatever because
Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. Okay, Anna A.
I got 23.
Okay,
Yeah.
don't worry about it. Okay. 23. Anna B.
28.75.
Okay, 28.75. I was checking grades the other day and a student told me like, what did he tell me? He was like, I got 28.8 or something. And I was like, how did you get 20.8, 20.88? But anyways, okay, Aisu.
I got 33, but I exceeded the time limit.
You should never do that. You should never. Okay, just a note for everybody. Never do that. Okay, that's just like giving you a wrong indication of your score. Okay, so like never do it. If the time ends, you just stop doing it, and then I mean after you can solve for your own pleasure, but never exceed the time. Never Google stuff during the test. You might be like, that's very obvious. I know people do it. Okay, never like go stop the time, Google something, or like be like, I would have known this or whatever. If you don't know it, you don't know it. If you exceed the time, you stop. Just saying. It's for your own good. Okay. Aziret.
I got 23.75.
Okay, okay. Barbara L.
I got 23.5.
Okay, 23.5. Okay. Barbara Z.
I got 28 and a half.
Okay, very nice. Who do I have? Beate.
I got 26.
Okay. I mean, you guys can sort of see the average, I guess, at this point. So it's like mid 20s is usually. Okay. Bora.
28.
28. Okay, very nice. Bruno.
I'll keep the same score that I gave you the last time.
Which was what?
What? I don't remember, but around 25, I think.
Okay, 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 okay. Let me know. Let me know after. Thank you.
Yeah.
Who do I have here now? Catalina.
26.75.
Okay, okay. Then we have Damily.
I have 31.25.
Very nice. Very good. Very good. Just checking with everybody, like, because sometimes things go wrong. It's plus 1 points for correct answers, minus 0.25 for wrong answers, and 0 points for blanks, right? So just to be clear. Dina.
Got 24.25.
Okay, okay. Ebru.
I got 32. Yeah.
Very nice. Very good. For reference though, Ebru has taken another course, so that's why. Okay. Ecem. See, if you study hard, you can also get to 32. Okay, Ecem.
I got 28.25.
Okay, very nice. Elif.
I got 30 and a half.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Eylül.
I got 27.25.
Okay. Okay, very good. Fabiana.
I got 24.5.
Okay. Gonzalo.
I also got 24.5.
Okay. Karina.
I got 27.75.
Okay. It'd be very funny if you said 27.7. Okay. Kinga.
I got 25.
Okay. Lisa, you said 38. Lisa already took another course too. So that's why the score is so high. Wait, I opened something by accident. I don't know how to close it. Yeah, how do I close this thing? Okay, closed it. Sometimes I feel like a boomer, but I mean, okay. Maya.
28.75.
Okay, great. Matt.
My point is 17.
17.
Yes,
Okay.
I made 23. Oh,
Okay, okay, okay. Let's see what we can do about that. Okay. Milena.
I got a 33.25.
23.25. Okay.
Oh, 30. Oh, 33.25.
Oh, very good. Crazy score you got there. Very good. Did I skip someone? No, I didn't. Okay. Mir Jawad.
I got 19.
Okay, okay. Let's see. Let's see what we do. What we should do about that too. Natalia.
I got 32.
Oof. Very good. Very nice. Okay. Nihir.
I got 30.50.
Okay, very good. Nicole?
I got 24.75.
Okay, 24.75. I feel like there was another Nihir. Did she quit? Because I was like, quit if you didn't solve the test. Okay, okay. Okay, Octavian?
I got 29.5.
Okay, very good. Um, um, Queen, 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 Queen.
I got like 30.
Okay, very nice. Very good. We have a lot of high scores this group. Very good. Okay. Ralitza?
I got 31.75.
Very good. Very good. Very impressive. Okay. Ruben?
I got 19.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Let's see what we do about that. Okay, quick tips. So I mean I should probably say this after, but quick tips. Okay, wait, I'll say it after because I don't want to interrupt the flow. I'll say it after. Okay, Sharon?
25.5.
25.5. Okay. Sude?
29.
Very good, very good. Sude, but you solved this test before or no? You did, right? You know it, you know it. Okay. Okay, okay. Okay. Yosun?
29.5.
Okay. Okay. Did I not ask anyone? Is there anybody that I didn't ask the scores to? Okay. Well, then I guess we can move on to our lesson. So, okay, so quick tips. Apart from the very basic stuff about not exceeding, like, because you guys know the things and I already wrote it down on the group chat, but um, if you have 20 minutes for text comprehension, that's only for text comprehension, right? You cannot use your surplus time on another section. It's like the SAT. Like if your time is over, it's over. Then you start you'll start the next section. One more thing: never, ever, ever print these tests. Okay, don't print and solve them. In the real test, a lot of you like if things stay as they are, you will solve the test from a computer. Okay, even if you go to Torino in person, you will solve it from a computer. You will never solve the test from paper, okay? So don't get used to solving it from paper. Always solve it from your screen. Don't write anything on it like this because you won't be able to. So have two pieces of paper next to you and get used to the fact that you're gonna have to write all the solutions on that piece of paper. Okay, it's very crucial that you get used to the real exam atmosphere. Okay, that being said, some very easy strategies that will immediately boost your score. Do not answer anything that you don't know. Okay? If there's a question which you don't know, never, ever, ever guess the question. Okay? Because if you guess the question, most likely you will lose minus 0.25 points. Okay? So don't answer anything you don't know unless you're very certain that it's either A or B, for example, then you can take your 50% chance. Okay? In that very specific scenario, you can guess. Otherwise, never ever guess. Don't worry, I'll fix it later. Or send me a message on WhatsApp because I'll definitely forget. Okay, so quick tips about reading comprehension before I explain all the questions is that the first thing you have to do is to read the text. Read the question. Okay. First, read the question. Read the second question, third, fourth, fifth. You don't have to read the options because you'll forget them anyways. So just read the questions. Okay. Because if you read the questions first, you will have a certain idea of what to look for in the text. Okay. So like, if you read something like Cubist dimensional revolution, which is something quite specific, then when you see it on the text, which is somewhere like here, right? It's not said in the same way, but it's paraphrased. For example, it was the revolution of the cubists, and you're like, oh yeah, this was one of the questions. So you pay more attention to it, because if you don't read the questions first, and if you read the text first, then you won't know what to look for. And then if you didn't pay attention to that specific thing, then you'll see like the cubist dimensional revolution, and you'll be like, oh, I don't remember any cubist dimensional revolution. Then you're gonna have to go back to the text, etc., etc. That's gonna make you lose time. So read the questions first. Then, when you read the text, you might get stuck at a certain point. Okay, maybe you read, I don't know, you read this part, and then you read this part, and then I don't know, here you get like stuck, and you don't understand what it's saying. Okay, don't get stuck too much. I mean, read it once, read it twice. If you don't understand what it's saying, just move on. Okay, because the text usually has it tries to tell you something. Okay, the person who's writing the text usually has a goal or has an opinion or something like that. So you might understand what he's trying to say if you just keep reading. So don't get stuck at a certain point. It's just like how, which is something I haven't said yet, but do not get stuck at the hard questions or perceptively hard questions. What I mean by that is none of the questions on this test are really hard. It's just that they might look hard, okay? Maybe they wrote it strange, which they always do, or they like, I don't know, they put the question in a weird way where like it seems difficult, but believe me, it's not, okay? So those difficult questions, do not spend any time on them. Just skip, because all the questions are worth the same points, okay? So if you just answer the maximum amount of easy, medium difficulty questions, that's all you need to do. Then you can come back with your extra time and take a look at the hard questions. But if you spend, for example, 5 minutes on a question that's difficult and you really want to get it right, you might be wasting time for 5 easy questions, which you could have solved in a minute each. So never, ever, ever get stuck at the questions, okay? Because I know that emotionally it's difficult because you don't want to miss anything. Like you want to just answer that question. But in some cases like this, you got to be like a robot. You got to be like, okay, this doesn't make sense. I skipped this question. I'm going to come back to it later. For example, let me give you an example. In 2019, the test I took was way more difficult than all the practice tests I solved. And I remember at some point I left so many questions blank that I was like, okay, this is going horribly. Like, okay, I know the strategy is like skip the questions that you don't immediately understand and answer the easy ones. But I skipped so many questions that I was like, okay, this is like going terribly. But then I came back to it and then I did them. So like in the exam, it's a different mentality. Maybe you feel a bit different because it's the real thing, right? But you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta skip the difficult questions. You got to go for the easy ones. You got to go for the ones that you just do, and then you come back to the difficult ones. The same thing applies to the text. Don't get stuck at one part of the text. Just keep reading it, okay? Understand as much as you can, then answer as many questions as you can. And then let's say you don't know, you don't remember what's the essence of architecture, then you might go back if you have a certain idea and read it, or you give it a quick skim. But if you can't find it, just move on, okay? Because you have another text to read here. So that's those are the strategies that come to my mind at the moment. I'll keep saying things as they come. Okay, so we have like an hour. Usually the lessons have breaks, but this first lesson is quite how do I put this? We're quite short on time, right? Because usually I have 2 hours to go through this test. Now I have 1 hour. So how this is going to go is that I'm going to be asking you which questions you would like me to explain. And then once someone says, I would like you to explain question number 2, I will explain that question. Okay. So who has any questions from questions 1 to 5? It's okay. You can say it.
On the third one, I wrote E. And I kind of got confused from the text itself.
Okay. Okay. So you have 3. Any other questions?
Yeah, number 4, please. I didn't get it.
Okay. Any more questions?
And question 5, please.
Okay. Does anyone have 1 and 2? I mean, those were quite easy. So tell me.
No, I got one wrong.
Okay. Okay, I'll just do 1 very quickly. So first read the question, right? From the
Sorry, I have a
information,
quick question.
yes.
Is it the same test that was for the math and physics?
No, different test.
Okay, so I haven't solved it, so goodbye. Oops.
Think me neither. I didn't know there were 2.
Okay. I mean, if you're taking both history and general culture and math and physics, then there's 2, yeah. Because it wouldn't make sense if they were the same test.
May I ask you, you mean the test number 1 and the test number 5?
Yes, correct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, if you haven't solved it, please don't look at the answers. Then, okay, what was I saying? So, from the information obtainable in the passage, what led artists of the 15th century to believe to possess the dimensions of architecture? Or I believe it says it somewhere around here. The discovery of perspective, that is the graphic representation of the 3 dimensions, height, depth, size, and width, could make 15th century artists believe they finally possessed the dimensions of architecture. So that's where you find the answer for this. So the discovery of perspective made them believe that they possessed the dimensions of architecture. I start to think of the texts in a different way recently, which is that each part gives you the answer for a question, right? And in each part, the guy like what's the word I'm looking for? He like proceeds now. He like drives his argument forward. Okay. So like for example, here, that's why I marked this part here. He talks about like uh, how architecture distinguishes itself, right? So he talks about like architecture is 3-dimensional, painting has 2 dimensions, sculptures has 3, but it's different from architecture because architecture, on the other hand, right, is like a large sculpture where like someone can go into. And he's explaining why architecture is different in this first part, right? That being said, that brings me to this. Always pay attention since you won't be able to do this on the test, right? You won't be able to like underline anything. Mentally, you should be ready to pay attention and put like these little, let's say, waypoints on important words. Okay. So, like, however, for example, or like, on the other hand, for example, these words, I know that this sounds very simple, but believe me, it's very important that you need to like read those words you need to pay a lot of attention on those words because usually after those, they make a case and then that's asked on the questions. Okay. Or even if it's not asked, it's telling you something important, which gives you the, excuse my language, it gives you the vibe of the text, right? And understanding the vibe of the text is very important because even if you missed something, okay, you missed like a specific word or sentence or whatever, if you understand what the guy is trying to say, where he's coming from, you can also answer the question, right? So these things are quite important. Okay. Um, Wait, since I was talking about these, let me keep talking about that. So here he talks about like how architecture is 3-dimensional, painting is 2, okay, and then he's like, yeah, okay, sculpture is also 3, but architecture is different because you can go into you can like invade the giant sculpture that is architecture, right? And that's how he's telling you, like, I'll be making a case about how architecture is different from the other forms of art, right? So that's the thing. Also read the title. Sometimes the title is quite useful. Space, the protagonist of architecture. That also tells you a lot, no? Because it's telling you how space, which is how we as humans experience by going into architecture, if you think of architecture as this giant sculpture, makes a difference, right? That's the difference between architecture and sculpture, for example. Then here, this text is quite specific. It's just for you to like take that answer from there. Like perspective is discovered, makes two dimensionals like three, but you know, it's however, right? However, in the last decade of the 19th century, the mind of the man discovered that beyond three perspective dimensions, a fourth existed. Now he's going to make the case for the fourth dimension, right? So he first in this part, he's going to say how that's because of cubism, how they like um, put the fourth dimension into place by, I think he explains it here. Like for example, a box or a table, I see it from one point of view, but if I turn the box in my hands or I go around the table, with each step, my point of view changes, and to represent the object from the point of view, I have to make a new perspective. So he draws it from one point of view, then he goes to another point of view, he draws it again, right? And eventually, what he's doing is that he's just manipulating time, right? He's just changing with time where he's standing, and then he just like this sentence, I think, summarizes it all. Time was thus baptized as the fourth dimension, right? So then he's like, okay, there's a fourth dimension, which is time. But then he comes back to the first point, and he's like, each work of architecture requires the time of the journey, the fourth dimension. So architecture also has the fourth dimension, just like, for example, sculpture or painting, because Cubism put that in. But the architectural space is not exhausted in four dimensions. Because again, he's gonna come back to the same thing where like architecture is different because we as humans can walk into it, which is something you cannot do with painting and sculpture. So it's gonna say like where does he say? Oh, it's here. Like, does not require like all these other things, painting, sculpture. It doesn't require any physical participation. But then, if you're in the architectural volume, right, you physically participate in it. And then it says space itself is the essence of architecture, transcends the limits of the fourth dimension. So then again, he makes the case that yes, okay, there was a time where cubists had the fourth dimension and blah blah blah. But again, architecture is above all that because it transcends the fourth dimension via space. So I think this is very useful, especially for you guys that because I do know that everyone has a different level of English, right, in the course. And I think for those of you that have less of it, it's quite important to do this analysis of the text after you read it, because I do know what it feels like. I mean, I also come from a point where I had a much lower level of English, right? And I do remember that it feels like you're just reading you're reading this fountain of text, and you're just trying to like understand like some things, and then you're trying to understand the questions and answer them, right? And I know that it's difficult, but if you can understand that each part tells you something, each part makes a case, and each part contains an answer, then I feel like you'll by looking at the text from this point of view, I feel like you'll have a better understanding of how to tackle it. So after each time you um, you solve a test, make sure you analyze the reading part like this. Okay, which part's telling me what? What's the case that the guy is making? And then you can go on to the individual questions. You can go on to the fact that I don't know, maybe you answered this question C. Okay, so you need to understand first of all, why did you choose C, right? And then why was it not C? And then why was it E? So you got to make like a thorough I'm shouting too much. Oh, you got to make like a thorough investigation of why you chose what you chose. Okay.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yes.
Are the questions always in order in the text? Like you can.
No.
No.
It changes sometimes. It could be like 4, 6, 7, 8, 5. Like
Okay.
yeah.
And are they all from the text directly or usually
Directly from the text. You should never use outside knowledge. I mean, let me actually clarify because that's not exactly true. You technically shouldn't use any outside knowledge. But if you know, unfortunately, in none of these texts, even if you wanted to, you couldn't use outside knowledge. But I think for the first test of math and physics, with some of you will see. Um, for example, I think there was I'm trying to remember the question. Like it's like which one of these things, according to the text, which one of these things happened like before collapse of the Western Roman Empire or something like that? Or no, which one of these things did not happen before the collapse or something like that, it asks. And from the text, it was quite difficult to get that it's iconoclasm and the emergence of Islam. But if you do know, which we'll learn in the course, if you do know that the Western Roman Empire collapsed in 476, and if you do know that iconoclasm and Islam emerged in early 600s, then iconoclasm followed in the 700s. If you do know that, it's quite easy to know that it happened after, you know? So like, if you know, you can use outside knowledge, but it's usually recommended not to. On like objective facts, you can. On personal views, obviously, you can't. Okay, so no one asked two, but I guess we already explained why, right? The Cubist dimensional revolution introduced time, the fourth dimension. And for three, according to the author of the piece, the physical participation of the observer is essential only in architecture. We also did talk about that too, right? But if you have any questions, you just keep asking me. From the information obtainable in the passage, wait, let me go back to three. It does say it, I think, somewhere here. Where did I see that? Does not require, right? So in painting, the fourth dimension is a representative quality of an object. It's an element of the object's reality that a painter can choose to project onto the plane, which does not require any physical participation of the observer. In sculpture, the same thing happens. So which means doesn't require the participation of the observer. For example, this Boccioni form we will learn in uh, in in what? In history of art. It's a very important sculpture because they keep asking it in those questions where you need to order like pictures chronologically. It's 1913, that sculpture. It's very, very important. I think the only thing you need to know about that is that it's made in 1913. Okay, from the information obtainable in the passage, in architecture, the fourth dimension is sufficient to define the architectural volume that encloses the space. I think that's mentioned directly somewhere. I need to remember where exactly. Let's see. To be more precise, the fourth dimension is sufficient to define the architectural volume. So that's why the answer is B. And then, strange. And then, according to the author of the piece, what is the essence of architecture? This also, I think, was quite easy because here it says, but space, the essence of architecture. It says, so space is the essence of architecture. I think that's also the title. No, it's the protagonist, but close. So those are the first five questions. Let me know if you want me to further elaborate on something. If not, I move on to the next five questions. So any questions from 6, 7, 8, 9, 10?
9.
Number 6.
6, 7.
7.
Okay, 6, 7,
Also number
9,
10.
10. I bet someone has 8 too, so it's okay. I'll explain all of them. So let's see. Let's read our questions first. 6, the image of the scientific life of the author of the piece. This was a very strange question because, and you'll see this test has a lot of strange questions, okay? Sometimes you're gonna need to choose education doesn't matter is not something that a lot of people would say, but he might say it, you know? So that's what I meant. Like, you can't bring in your personal opinions. If the guy says it doesn't matter, you got to go with the fact that it doesn't matter. Uh, yes, he says daily scientific work involves the exercise of common sense, sound judgment. Then he says, oh, this is the answer to another question. Strokes of genius are only rarely necessary, which means that it really isn't, because the scientific method is nothing but an enhanced form of common sense. So he's just emphasizing the fact that, like, it's not education, it's not like really brilliant brilliant people. It's just those people that, stick to a method, they have common sense, and they constantly update their views according to new findings. He says it is, in fact, it's better to be considered meticulous and pedantic than naive and superficial. So he says the exact opposite of what you've seen here. So yeah, I mean, as you can see, they're all disproven in the text. Therefore, it's none of the above. Best fits the author's idea of scientific method. I guess we just answered it. Common sense, right? Criticizing the scientific work of a colleague is, according to the author, useful because it induces the scientist to question his own ideas. He says that somewhere. So many texts are going through the group chat. But yeah, that's the password, yeah. Okay, so what was the question again? Criticizing the scientific work of a colleague. Let's see. Uh, uh, uh. If a scientist asks a colleague for a frank criticism, frank means honest, right? An honest criticism of his work, he should expect what he has asked for. It is not a kind act, indeed, could even be a sign of enmity. To reassure a colleague about the clarity and reliability of his work or the coherence of his thesis when the experiments that should constitute the demonstration are ill-conceived and poorly executed. In a more general sense, criticism must be understood as the most powerful weapon of any scientific methodology. In any case, the only one that allows the scientist not to persevere in error. That means not to get stuck in error. Persevere means that. So, since it's the most powerful weapon to get the scientist move forward, I would say that scientific work of a criticizing the scientific work of a colleague is useful, right? Useful doesn't sound so strong. I wish it did, but it's none of these things, right? It's not a sign of enmity. He was just saying that it's not. Uh, it's not an act unrelated to the progress of knowledge. If it said related, then maybe this could have been the answer too. It's not harmful, it's not useless, so it's B. Okay, this is a great question because you might see a question just like this one. It's quite common. A question like question number 10, which um, which says that from the passage it can be deduced that the author is probably. So you might be thinking, how am I supposed to know? You might be like, how am I supposed to know what the guy's doing, right? The thing is, you don't, right? You don't know what he's doing. You just know that he wrote some text about like the scientific method. So you have to make the most general assumption that you can, okay? So do we know anything at all that he won a Nobel Prize? No. Do we know anything about, like, we don't know any of these specific things. Like, he's the editor of numerous scientific publications. We don't know. Like, unless he tells us that, back in 1975 when I won the Nobel Prize for physics, unless he says something like that, you don't know. So you cannot just say it, right? Literary critic and lab technician, these are not that bad as answers. It's just that he is writing about science, right? And seems like he knows a lot about the scientific method. So I would assume that he's a scientist, right? More than a lab technician and much more than a literary critic. Okay, so always make the most general assumption that you can that suits the text. And I mean, you might be thinking, okay, but why is he not a lab technician? Because like he doesn't talk about labs and technical things about like, you got to put this many milliliters of blah blah. Like he talks about more generally the scientific method. So he's probably a scientist. So again, choose the most general thing. Okay, so this part, I'm not gonna ask you any questions and I will just blitz through it. More likely than not, a lot of things here that you guys don't know. But don't worry, we'll be talking about basically all of them. This is a quite interesting question. You don't see questions like these too much. You could see literary questions. So would be useful for you to know who Salvatore Quasimodo is. Uh, which brings me to the fact that I need to say the arch test trivia, or I think I renamed it to trivia, but doesn't matter. The trivia document, which is a document that I'll not be giving a lesson on, is very, very, very important, okay? Because that document contains all the non three major topics stuff. So, like, for example, we're going to do history of architecture, we're going to do history of art, we're going to do world history, right? Everything that's not in those three is in the arch test trivia. So it's packed with information. So if I were you, I would spend a significant amount of time on arch test trivia. It's very important. Like the things on EU, for example, super important. The things on Italy, what kind of country is Italy, its constitution, um, I don't know, like literature, the part on literature is very important. Like if I were you, I would take a significant amount of time memorizing the stuff there. Stuff on
I'm sorry.
Shakespeare. Yes.
Where exactly is this? Is it somewhere in the folders in the doc?
Yeah, it should be in resources.
Okay, thank you.
One more thing, actually, now that you asked me that, I last night I reshared all the folders again. So now you should have access to folders called resources and then another folder called recordings. And recordings is empty, okay? Because this is the first lesson. But once this recording is ready, which after the lesson it is, I put it on the recording folder and then you can watch it anytime until basically the test date. So that's another thing. All these things, all the documents that we'll be talking about and the recordings will be available until the test date. Okay, so until late July, they'll be available to you on the drive. Okay.
I have a question as well.
Yes.
Could you tell us what's gonna be like the structure of like the meetings on Saturdays? Because I'm not sure if we're gonna always talk about the test that we have done before, or we're gonna like talk
No, no,
about the.
no. Okay, yeah, let me explain. So we're gonna solve a total of four tests. This is the first one. How it's gonna go is that test 3 lessons of architecture, test 3 lessons of history of art, test 3 lessons on world history, and then test. And then we finish. So that's how it
Okay.
goes.
Yeah. Okay.
Alrighty.
I have a question too.
Yes.
Yeah, so just to clarify, so you said that the literature part and just the general history part that like also was in the test, it'll be on Italy.
Mostly, but not all of it.
No, but like the literature will be on Italy. Like it will be Italian.
Mostly, but not all of it. Like
Okay.
you'll have Italian literature and you'll have like international
Okay.
literature.
And
Like you can have like Shakespeare, you can have like American writers such as like Ernest Hemingway, etc.
and will both text error and comprehension also be also centered on architecture like the first one was, or not necessarily?
Could be anything. Could be anything.
Okay, so it's like anything and whatever
Because
text.
this was on like
Yeah, this was on
scientific
science and
method.
stuff. Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, it
Okay.
could be on anything. Yeah.
Thanks.
I mean, usually you have texts on art and architecture too. But I mean, also depends on what, like this is vaguely on space, which is part of architecture, but it's very like literary. It's not too much like, architecture building. So,
Mhm.
alrighty. Okay, with this question, I'm just gonna talk about it very quickly. It's very vague, this question. It's not an easy question. It's just that if you look at answer E, you will see that it says on the concluding lines, entrust the evocation, very difficult language, of a now complete palingenesis of poetry to the joyful image of the willows. Well, if you read this, you'll realize that there's no joyful image of the willows. Like it's very sad. It says, like for example, upon the willows we too as an offering hung our harps, which swayed quietly in the sad wind. Like nothing joyful about the willows, as you can see. So you can just take E for that reason. The other things, I mean, the foreign heel talks about German troops which occupied Italy a few years ago, because this is 1947. And all the other things are sort of mentioned too, like not to waste time on it. This is how you would get the answer on a very complex question like that. You got to see a line which is not supported by the text. Okay. Wait, did someone? Even if you don't know what Cadoro is, you got to know what's Palazzo Pitti, which is the main palace in Florence. And if you know that Palazzo Pitti is in Florence, this is what it looks like in the front, and this is what it looks like in the back from the Boboli Gardens. So once you know that this is in Florence, the question becomes quite easy. Okay, this one is the Poppies painting by Monet. Once you see history of art, you will quite easily answer this question because Matisse paints Fauvism, which looks nothing like this. Gauguin always paints natives of Tahiti, so it looks nothing like this. You all know Van Gogh, he doesn't have a painting like this. Or at least if they asked Van Gogh, they wouldn't put a painting like this, right? They would put something more stereotypical. Cézanne, I mean, the painting is quite blurry, but Cézanne is more abstract, let's say. So when you see this, you'll know it's Monet. So don't worry about it.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
Yeah, will if we also have a painting on the test, will it also be black and white?
it's going to be colored,
It's going to
apparently.
be colored because it was quite hard to find, especially because of the black and white. It was like in the blurriness.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're definitely right. It's just that when I took it, it was in person, it was on paper, it was black and white and blurry.
Okay.
So I thought it was like that, but turns out the tests now have colored images and they're quite clear. So
hmm
nothing to worry. But again, when you know Monet and when you know his paintings, even with this level of detail, you'll recognize. So don't worry.
hmm
This is a very important building, which I will underline over and over again. When you think of new language for industrial architecture, what this is quite clearly referring to is Peter Behrens, who worked on early, let's not say early, but he worked on industrial architecture a lot, and his AIG turbine factory is considered to be one of the more famous examples of that industrial architecture. Um, that being said, okay, the tests are a great resource to learn. Okay, you can learn a lot from each test. So what I would suggest you to do is that whenever you have time, maybe tomorrow you have time, I don't know, or maybe sometime during the week, go over the entire test. Okay, go over, like, do the thing I said about the texts, analyze your answers, analyze the actual answers. And also, for parts like history and general culture, try to learn every single thing. Like, at least, for example, learn who's Cavour. Even though I'm going to teach you later, if you learn it now and if you hear it from me again, you'll have a much better memorization of what that is. Okay? Like, Google Pienza, look at its plan. Um, Look at all these buildings. At least look at Deutsche Palace, Cadora, Palazzo Pitti. Okay. Google all these people. Like, try to learn as much as you can from each test because it really will boost your score doing that. Okay. And I'll tell you, like, if you don't need to know someone, I'll tell you, like, I think, these two palaces you don't have to know, for example, but all these people and all these people, quite important, all of them. Okay. 19, which of the following historical events did not happen during the period of fascism? This refers to the period in Italy, which is 1922, starting from Mussolini's march on Rome, until 1943, when it fell. Or we can even say 1945, because it continued in northern Italy until the end of the war. But as you can see, Italo-Abyssinian War happened in 1936. Actually, they should have been more clear because there's two of these, but I guess it's referring to the second one because the Italo-Turkish War, in which Italy occupied today's Libya, happened in 1911. So it didn't happen in this period. The other things here, Battle for Grain was an initiative by the fascist government to make Italy self-sufficient in grain. So that's in the 30s. Occupation of Albania is 1939, when Italy occupied Albania just before the start of the war. In the signing of the Pact of Steel, Pact of Steel refers to the establishment of the Axis. You might have heard of the Axis. In World War II, you have Axis and the Allies. And the name Axis comes from the Berlin-Rome Axis because Mussolini had a speech in which he said, after the signing of the pact, Europe's going to revolve around the Berlin-Rome axis. So that's where the name Axis comes from. But the official name is Pact of Steel. Okay, and the final question, which I find to be absolutely crazy. The person who overthrew the monarchy in Egypt in 1952 is Nasser. I might be mispronouncing his name, but yeah, Nasser is the guy. Colonel Nasser is the guy who did the coup d'état. He overthrew King of Egypt, Farouk. So Farouk is the guy who got overthrown. Sadat is the guy after Nasser, and Mubarak is the guy that was in power until 2011. He was overthrown with the Arab Spring, 2010, 2011. Very important. There was a question on that in another test. And Atatürk is the founder of the Republic of Turkey. So knowing a little bit about these people also, I think, would be quite crucial. But again, Nasser is the most important person here for the test. And Mubarak is important because he was overthrown in the Arab Spring. I don't think they'll ask you anything about Mubarak, but they might ask you something about the Arab Spring. So it's good to know what that is. Okay, so back to you guys. Questions 21 to 30. What do you want me to say?
23.
Okay.
22. 25.
26.
25, 26.
22, 23, 26, 7, 9, and 10.
7, 9, and 10. Okay.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Okay, you let me know if you have. So I'm surprised no one asked 21, but I guess it's clear from what I have here. Okay, 22 is a great question. I really like this question because it really makes you think. A full bottle of wine costs 10 euros. The wine costs 9 euros more than the empty bottle. Okay. The empty bottle costs what? Or I draw like these diagrams because I think it makes it really clear. So for example, all physicists are precise. Michele is a cooking enthusiast. All cooking enthusiasts are precise. Which of the following statements will be definitely true, right? So let's just draw. It says all physicists are precise. So we make a big group and we call it precise, okay? And then we make a smaller group and we call it the physicists, which means, as you can see, since all the physicists are in the bigger group of precise, all physicists are precise, right? Then Michele is a cooking enthusiast. So we can make another group here, okay? And we can call it cooking enthusiasts, okay, CE. And we put Michele in it. So M is Michele, and he's in that, right? The thing is, I made two separate groups here, right? So physicists and cooking enthusiasts are separate. But the thing is, technically, they could also have an intersection, right? Technically, you could also have something like this, in which cooking enthusiasts and physicists, both in the big group of precise, might have an intersection, right? So you might be a person that's a cooking enthusiast, and you might also be a physicist, for example. And then it tells us all cooking enthusiasts are precise, and that's the reason why I put it here, and I didn't put it here. Because, if it didn't say this, cooking enthusiasts might be also out of the group that's called precise, right? But since all cooking enthusiasts are also precise, just like physicists, we have to put that group in the big group of precise. So then you have this graph, you have this diagram here. But again, you should also keep in mind that there's nothing that tells us that we can't unify these two groups. So you might also have a scenario like this one. But in both scenarios, what does not change is that Michele has to be precise because we know that cooking enthusiasts are precise and physicists are precise. So even if Michele is both or one or whatever, he has to be precise. So what's definitely true is that Michele is precise. So my suggestion with these questions is that make this diagram this one, okay? And then see if you're missing any other scenarios. In this case, this is another scenario, right? Where physicists and cooking enthusiasts can have an intersection. And then answer the question accordingly. Okay.
Sorry, I have a question
Yes.
about this.
Yes.
About the second diagram, we don't know anything about Michele being a physicist. Wouldn't that be an assumption? Or...
Yeah. Yeah. It could be an assumption, but it doesn't say like it doesn't say anything. So like it's within the probabilities.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So in a question like this, you can make assumptions. Okay. Because like, if you said, does it say it here? Like Michele is a mathematician is a bit funny. All physicists are passionate about cooking. All precise people are passionate about cooking. Anyone who's passionate about cooking cannot be. Okay, so that's I think takes out A, right? Because you can't really say like this doesn't exist because there is nothing that tells you that it cannot, right? Like if it said something like no cooking enthusiast is a physicist, then you would be like, okay, this has to be the only scenario, and then this has to be the answer, for example. But even then, I think you would be alerted by option D, because even if that was the case, then you would be like, well, Michele has to be precise anyways, no? So then you would be like, oh, I guess I'm thinking about something wrong. Okay. 26 is an interesting question. So according to a statistical survey in 1990, 40% of the adult population smoked. Okay. Again, according to the survey in 1991, following an anti-smoking campaign, only 30% of the adult population continued to smoke. So there was a 10% decrease on the number of smokers. However, the organizers of the anti-smoking campaign, in their advertising, reported a 20%, 25% decrease. So you might be reading this and be like, how is that possible? Like, it says 10 and then they reported 25. Like, how is that possible? Well, it depends on what data set you're looking at, right? The initial data looks at the total population. It looks at the fact that 40% of the population used to smoke. Now it's 30%. So in the whole population, you have a decrease of 10%. But if you look at that 10% decrease within the 40%, which smokes, in the number of smokers, the decrease is 25%. So it reflects a change in the number of smokers expressed as a percentage of smokers in 1990.
I have a
Was that,
question.
yeah?
Why wouldn't it be, for example, E? Because it says the change of the number of smokers expressed as a percentage of the population. Because the text, according to the text, is basically says as a percentage of the population, not as a percentage of smokers. And the ending is about 1991, not about 1990.
But
Then why wouldn't it be E?
But if you express the number of smokers, the change in number of smokers, which is 10%, as a percentage of the population, you would end up with again 10%. It has to be it has to be the number of smokers as a percentage of smokers, because then you would get 10 out of 40, and then you would get 25%.
Okay.
Because
That's confusing.
if you did change in the number of smokers is 10%, right?
Yes.
And then you do it as a percentage of the population. So out of 100%, you would end up with 10%.
Yeah.
So the key difference between the two campaigns, like the key difference is that you one reports 10%, another one reports 25%, because one reports it out of the entire population, and the
And
other
then
one reports it,
yeah,
yeah,
from the
okay,
smokers.
yeah.
Okay, I get it. Thank you.
Perfect.
I also have a question. Aren't answers C and E the same?
Yes, I think they are.
Oh.
But I just always forget to change it.
Okay, okay.
Which gives you like another clue that it can't be the answer. But yeah, if you're ever lucky enough to come across something like that, where you see like two things saying the same thing, can't be the answer.
And I have
Okay.
one more question. How did
Yes.
we find about that it was in 1990, not in 1991? Like the answer B.
Because, let's see, because it says, let me refresh my memory on the question. According to a statistical survey in 1990, 40% smoked. Then next year, 1991, only 30% smoked, right? So you express the change 10% as a percentage of the smokers in 1990, which is 40%. Because if you did it in 1991, this would have had to be 30%, 30%. Get it?
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. So next question. 27. Okay, this is a very interesting question because it's one of those questions that sounds really hard, but it's actually really easy. You just need to like follow what the text is telling you. So, what time is it? Oh my God, it's 1. Okay. In a circular section AOB, um, of radius 10, okay, with a width of 90 degrees. So that means you gotta have something like this, right? Like if this is a circle, you have a circular section. Like, okay, we don't know if that's like that. And if you say all of them don't work, you're saying 3 people don't work, right? But you're just saying one of the possibilities to disprove that assumption. If you say at least one of them works, that means one of them could be working, 2 of them could be working, 3 of them could be working. It's a more comprehensive statement than all of them work, which is only one scenario. If you say at least one of them works, in our scenario with 3 people, you describe all 3 scenarios.
So we need to find the minimal possibility.
You need to find the assumption, not the assumption, the statement that describes all scenarios that disprove the assumption.
Okay.
Or let's think of it
I
like
still don't see how that disproves anything.
I have a question. I think I kind of understood it. Is it something like the minimum needed for the all of them don't work to be
you
like the opposite, like the minimum needed?
you could also say the minimum needed, which is correct. It's just that it's way more comprehensive because at least one of them works statement proves it in many scenarios. Like I said, if you have 3 people, okay? I think I tried to describe it here. That's why I have like the 3 people, right? But I don't think this is gonna help you in any way. If you have 3 people, and if you say all of them work, you disprove the statement all of them don't work, right? But it could have
Isn't
happened
that the
in
point?
Yes, it is the point. But B also, like, how do you, okay, let's say, do you accept that B is correct too?
It could be because B is not saying that all work, which E is. In my opinion, E is just more correct because it's defining as many people as it can, all of them. Whereas B is only
But
speaking about one.
see, what you're confusing is that disproving the statement has nothing to do with how many of them work or don't work. You just need to have one person to disprove the statement. So like if it says more people work, it's not more correct than the statement that says less people work. But the goal, the thing that makes B the better answer is because it says at least one of them works. Because that means B is also saying all of them works too. You know, it says like one of them works, 2 of them works, 3 of them works. It proves all possible scenarios of anyone working, because the whole point is that if someone works, it disproves the scenario. But if you say all of them work, you're just describing one scenario. You're not describing, for example, a scenario where two people work and five people don't. It still is correct because as long as at least one person works, you disprove the statement. It's like, think of it like this. Think of it like this. You have like five glasses, okay? And I say all of the glasses are blue, okay? If you can just prove that one of the glasses is red, I'm wrong. You don't have to say all of the glasses are red. Because if you say at least one glass is red, that means one glass can be red, two glasses can be red, three glasses can be red, four glasses can be red. All of them could be red because at least describes all those scenarios. If you say all glasses are red, you're just describing one scenario. It's strange how it is more clear when you say glasses than people who work. It's very strange. Anyways, was that clear?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay, I guess it wasn't. But just keep in mind that the more comprehensive statement is the better answer. Because keep in mind that if you say at least one of them works, that also describes the scenario where all of them work. So it's a better answer. Okay. 29. This is also a very common type of question. In a recent press release, Mr. X stated that he would resign from the parliament if evidence were presented against him that he had falsified his expense reimbursement. Okay. And if he had lost the confidence of his constituents. Newspaper A published detailed allegations regarding his expense claims under investigation by the judiciary. Newspaper B conducted an opinion poll amongst his voters, and 60% said they no longer trusted him. Newspaper C had the headline, "Resign, Honorable X, resign." So what's the error in the reasoning behind the title of newspaper or the headline of the newspaper C? Well, E is a very elegant answer. It says, allegations and investigations by the judiciary do not constitute sufficient evidence of guilt. So you had to tick two boxes for the guy to resign, right? The first box was that if he had falsified his expense reimbursement, okay, which is under investigation, and if he lost the confidence of his constituents. Well, he did lose the confidence of his constituents because 60% said they don't trust him. But the other one, the other box that we had to tick, whether he falsified his expenses or whatever, was under investigation. So we don't know if he did or not, right? So he doesn't have to resign yet because it's not proven that he is guilty, and therefore it's E. Was that clear? Okay. Question 30. This is also, again, a very common type of question, which I would think about this a lot if I were you, because it's very common to have these kinds of questions. The good thing is I feel like they're quite clear. So let's go over it. Numerous media awareness campaigns have promoted the consumption of seasonal 0 kilometer fruit and vegetables of local origin. So usually these questions start with like some kind of a statement. This is what's happening. Okay. However, consumers expect supermarkets to offer all types of fruit and vegetables in every season. Okay, again, this is what's happening, but this is also what's happening. Okay. The fact, now the opinion of the question, which usually is very strong and sometimes even strange. The fact that the food is 0 kilometer does not seem to be a relevant factor in guiding consumer choices. So the question is literally telling you, this is what I think, based on the information that I just provided. So we have a lot of campaigns for 0 kilometer fruits and vegetables, but no one seems to care. So as the person who wrote the question, I'm telling you, I don't think it seems to matter, all these advertisements. And then it says, which of these following statements is fully supported by the previous passage? Well, contrary to all expectations, media awareness campaigns have a low impact on consumers. That's basically what it's saying. It's saying that there's a lot of media campaigns on this thing, but no one seems to care. So I think they're ineffective. That's basically what it's saying. And then if it thinks that it's ineffective, it's saying it's ineffective. So we got to select option that says it's ineffective. It has a low impact on consumers. All these things don't really work out. Like housewives have been spoiled for the choice for too long. I don't know. Like also consider the big picture. Like consider this whole thing. Does it even mention housewives? Like if that was the point, it would at least mention it, and it wouldn't dedicate all of its time saying like. Also consider that like what is the text spending time on? It's like saying there's campaigns, no one cares, so they don't work, right? Those are the three things that it says. So housewives, no. Local agricultural economy continues to suffer. No, doesn't even talk about it. Consumers have become more demanding and demanding foods they want. Maybe, maybe they are. It's not the main point. The main point is that the ads don't work. No, because it's saying there's ads, no one cares, doesn't work. So it's about ads and their impact. What the text is telling you. Greenhouse gas emissions are unlike. It doesn't say anything about. Maybe, I mean, maybe because no one cares about the 0 kilometer stuff. So then maybe that is going to impact gas emissions. But that's not the point of the passage. So that's like a side information. Let's say the main point is that the ads don't work or the awareness campaigns don't work. Okay, questions 31 to 40.
47.
No, 31 to 40. Oh, you said 37?
Yeah.
Okay.
38.
31 too, please.
39
Okay.
and 40.
And
32.
31, 32. Someone said 39 and 40. Okay. What else? Did someone say 33?
36.
36. Okay.
35.
Which one?
35.
35. Okay. So some of these questions are, I think, like choose the best answer kind of questions, but let's see. For questions like these, try to look at the easiest thing that you can decipher. Okay, for example, let me just erase these so that you can see what we're looking at. For example, this is the very famous Vanna Venturi house by Robert Venturi, which we'll learn. But knowing that really doesn't give you any advantage. But again, I look at this house and I don't even look at the side views, the side elevations, because I don't really understand anything from them from the initial glance. I mean, I'm in the exam, I'm trying to like figure something out, right? So I look at the elevations and they look very similar. The only difference is that for the elevation on this side, you have a wall here, and for the elevation on this side, you have a wall here, right? So that means B, is this B? Yeah, B is the one where I'm supposed to see the wall on the right, right? And if I look here, this is the one where I see the wall on the right. Doesn't really matter if it's curved, because you would, if you would draw the elevation, you would still draw it like this. As long as, if it was like this, wait, if it was like this, you would maybe have two lines here to show that it's like bending or whatever. But since it's curved, you don't have any lines. But what really matters is that you have a wall on the right side of the house. So 4 is going to be B, right? Because the wall's on the right. And for 2, wait, for D, why is there
4
not
is
a
B.
wall? Wait, I'm a bit confused. For D,
Isn't it because it's a
And the
second floor and
no
they
for
don't
the
show the
for
outside
the
wall?
D, the wall is on the left.
no, yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's just that I used to remember, but yeah, you're right. This is piano primo, this is piano terra. So this is the first floor, this is the ground floor. And then again, yes. So the ground floor looks at the ground floor is this one because the wall is on the right, and here the wall is on the right. So that means your view 4 has to be B, right? And also make sure when you know something for certain, cross out the options. Because let's say we figured out that 4 is B, right? If you know 4 is B, question's over. You don't have to do anything else. As you can see, the question is very silly with these things. Usually, if you look at this, you would likely assume that, 4 has to be A because there's two options like that. So, logically they would put it like that. Doesn't really work that way. You might get one or two of these things and you might immediately answer the question. So 4 is B. That means since this is your floor above, 2 is going to be D. Since 4 was B, there's nothing else left for 2 to be. So 2 is D. And if you know 4 is B and 2 is D, question's done. You don't have to look at anything else. So that's how you solve a question like this. 32. These questions are quite common, putting a hole in the paper and then folding it, whatever. But this is an unusual version of the question because it's simple, but it has many options. Even though I guess it should be clear that the answer has to be only one of them because you can't like do different things and get the same thing, I think. So if you look at this one, let's just look at the answer. Here you have the paper folded like that. Then you open this up like that, right? And that gives you the same hole twice. And then turns out those were also folded like that. So if you unfold them like that, you will get 4 holes, which is what you're looking for. And that's why it's figure C. Was that clear? Okay, I assume it is. No one asked 33. Strange, I usually get it. No one asked 34. 35. Okay. So the figure shows 6 arrows which correspond to 6 different views. Choose the answer that associates each arrow with the correct corresponding view. Well, I mean, first thing right off the bat, I see the shape of this thing, right? And then you can immediately like start looking out for 1 and 2. Wait, let me change my color. Is this F? I don't even know. But you look at 1 and 2, right? So 1 and 2 has to be A or F, right? So how do you know which one's which? Well, A has to be 1 because A is looking from here where you can see all these lines, right? If you have dashed lines, dashed line means it's behind. So for F, for example, you would just see this, but then you also have the dashed lines to indicate that this is what's behind, right? So if you just know that, you can match A1, F2, A1, F2. Oh no, you didn't answer the question. You still need to go. But you can cross out all these other ones. So you can cross out A, C, and D. And then to go in between these two, for example, it says, I don't know, B is 6, which which view is B? Yeah, B is from the top. So this has to be at the top, this has to be at the bottom. So B is 6. If you say B is 6, you answer the question. Easy peasy. Any questions? Okay. This was quite easy, but also a useful question because it does give you certain dimensions that you should be aware of. So for example, right off the bat, you can say A is 45. Okay. I don't blame you if you didn't. I'm just saying that knowing that would be useful. Like your chair is usually something like 42, 45, whatever. So knowing that is quite useful. But anyways, I think the easiest things that can guide you is D and E. Because, I mean, D has to be something like 175, okay? Like, it can't be 217. It can't be 80, right? So it has to be 175. And then if D is 175, E has to be something taller. Now, so it also cannot be 175. So right off the bat, just by looking at D and E, you got to the point where you have A and D. Well, then I mean, look at C. C is like the tiniest one, right? So if C is the tiniest one, it has to be 33, and none of these two are. I mean, here it's 138, so obviously it also cannot be this one. So it's A. Okay, this question I put a little star here because it's a very, very, very unusual question. A very strange question. The answer is 4, I mean E, because I still find this question really strange, but the river has to flow with gravity, right? Like it has to start from a higher point and then it has to go to a lower point. So only in 4 you have a continuing descent. So like you have 220, 197, 190. So it flows downward. This, for example, this point is higher. These are all the same. This goes up and up, so no. This goes down, then up, so no. So it has to be number 4 for that reason. But again, it's a very weird question. It's strange, I gotta say. I don't think you'll see a question like this again. So I wouldn't think about it too much. Okay, this question everybody always asks. So I guess we can, right off the bat, we can cancel this one because, you would have seen 2 separate buildings. So you're probably between 2, 3, and 4. If you look at 3, you would realize that this is a car park. You have car parking spots, cars, car ramp. So also not this one. I mean, look at this. This doesn't look like a car park, right? Then what you would notice is that between 2 and 4, you might be thinking, how am I supposed to know which one it is? They both could be, right? Well, the thing is, you got to do 2 things. One, what are the differences between, or what does the elevation tell you? You have these like bay window looking things, right? This one, and this one. If you don't know what a bay window is, a bay window is something that's like this, right? Here it's very small, could be also bigger, also known as oriel window. Let's say big oriel window. Big oriel window. Yeah, like something like that. Okay? That's very pretty actually. So you have something like, or something like this even. You have something like this in your elevation. As you can see, these lines show you that that thing is coming out or going in, but probably coming out. And also this part is like a very nice all window, bay window, right? So you have bay window, bay window, bay window, and that is only possible in 4, bay window, and then this part that comes out. So that you can say 4. Or you can use another thing. If you look at this building, you have very equally spaced windows, right? Well, if you look here, they're not so evenly spaced. You have like big distance, small distance, small distance, small distance, big distance, small distance. So it's very different. So in that case, you should be naturally guided towards 4. Question number 39. The rotation of a point around a vertical axis. So you have a point here. You have a vertical axis. You have a 5 centimeter distance. If you rotate it, you'll get a circle. Circle with a 5 centimeter radius. You won't get a 5 centimeter diameter. You would get a 10 centimeter diameter, right? You won't get a cylinder. You won't get a spiral. I mean, if you moved it along the vertical axis downwards, then you would get a spiral, right? If you did like this. And a circle with a 10 centimeter radius, no diameter. Okay. This question was very interesting. But I've seen another one of these, so maybe it's a common type. It's once you know it, it's quite easy. So I remember I looked at this question and I was like, okay, I don't know like what it could be made of. Maybe this shape requires like a lot of strength. So maybe it's like steel. I don't know. I was thinking like that. And then I was like, but like you could make this out of anything. Like it's not like a crazy shape. And then I was like, well, it's not a shape. It's if you look at this is an impossible shape. That's why it's none of them. It's like one of those Escher shapes. Escher art. You know this guy that draws these things? These are impossible. These are only possible on a 2-dimensional plane. It's impossible to construct. Um, a very famous example, and if I can find the GIF or the GIF, it really is gonna explain it to you very, very well, is an Escher staircase. GIF. Come on. I need
From
a
the
GIF.
movie Inception?
Ah, yeah, maybe. As your staircase. Yes, perfect idea. So this is what you see if you look at this staircase from a certain angle, from a very specific angle. Something that's impossible might look possible because here you're going up, 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 and then you end up where you started, which is impossible because this is actually this. So obviously it doesn't work. It's just that if you look from here from a very specific point, it might look like they're aligning. I mean, look at this one and look at this one. So it's impossible. And that's why also like here you can see D, okay? And what it's trying to tell you is that you should know that the barycenter can also be outside the object. For example, if you have a donut, okay, its center of gravity is outside because the donut has a hole, right? But all the mass is around that hole. So the center of gravity is the point, but the point is not within the donut, for example. So what it's trying to tell you is that the geometric point, even if it's not within the solid, is the barycenter is the geometric point even if it's not within the solid, for example. So it could be within the solid, it could be outside the solid. It's still the barycenter. The phrasing is on purpose to confuse you for no reason, which I really hate because even if you know what the barycenter is, you might still get confused by the very weird phrasing. But yeah. Oof. Okay, I'm gonna need to text the other group and say that we're gonna start a bit late because after the lesson ends, there's the time when the recording needs to get ready. So I will text that for a second. Sorry, what? Give me 1 second. Okay, so 48. Um, a body weighing 10 kilonewtons is resting on the ground and the support area measures 2 meters squared. Which of the following expressions for the ground contact pressure is incorrect? So you might just calculate the ground contact pressure, which is, your weight divided by the area which you're applying that weight to, right? So you'll do 10 kilonewtons is 10,000 newtons. And then you'll be like 10,000 equals to 10,000 newtons divided by 2 meters squared, which is what's given to you. And you'll cancel them out. You'll get 5 newtons divided by meter squared, right? And you'll immediately notice once finding that's not really what the question is asking you. The question wants you to be able to tell that which of these is not the same thing as this. So it really is a unit conversion question, right? You got to be able to convert newtons per meter squared to, I don't know, newtons per centimeter squared and all those other things. So how do we do the unit conversions? Well, keep in mind that, for example, if you're converting linear measurements, like you're converting from meters to centimeters, what do? You go from 1 meter to 10 decimeters and then 100 centimeters. So you go 10, 10, right? Because it's linear. But if it's an area, which as a squared, you got to go 10 to the power of 2 instead of 10 to the power of 1, right? So for example, you would go from 5,000 5,000 newtons divided by meter squared to 50 newtons to decimeter squared, right? So when I go from meter squared to decimeter squared, I'm going down, right? So I got to go 10 to the power of minus 2, which is 50. So 5,000, I take off 2 zeros, it's 50. Then I go to centimeters because, this is the one with centimeters. I take off another 2 zeros, so 1, 2, and it's 0.5 newtons per centimeters. to realize why we're like subtracting zeros instead of adding zeros, well, because you're applying it to a smaller area, so the force has to also get smaller. Now, because if the force got bigger, then you would be applying a massive force compared to your starting force. So we take off two zeros going from meter squared to decimeter squared, then we take off two zeros more to go to centimeter squared. So this equals to 0.5 newtons per centimeter squared, which means which means B is the same thing. So we cross out B. A is very easy because, when you say kilonewtons, that means 1,000, right? It's like we said 10 kilonewtons, which means 10,000 newtons. That means times 10 to the power 3. So that's also the same thing as this one. Easy peasy. Well, the answer is C. It's quite visible, given that it either has to be B or C, no? Given that they both have the same units. So you can, if you prove B is not the answer, you'll immediately know that C is the answer. But let's do all the other options so you get a better understanding of the conversions. For example, I don't know if I wrote this down somewhere. Looks like I didn't, but let's just do E for time's sake. 5,000 newtons per meter squared is what we found already. So that is already not correct. So long story short, you do know that C is the answer. My recommendation for this one would be that these two are already very easy to deduce. But if you see the same units with centimeters squared, right? Just find the answer in centimeters squared. And then once you know what the answer is, you'll automatically know which one is not the answer. Okay, 49. Which of the following expressions gives the kinetic energy of a car? Oh, sorry, I saw a question. Anyways, I'm going to answer everything after the question, after the lesson. Which of the following expressions give the kinetic energy of a car weighing 10 kilonewtons traveling at a speed of 90 kilometers per hour? Okay, so this is a very easy question, but they always do one trick with these questions, okay? Assuming that you know that this is the kinetic energy formula, which is kinetic energy equals to 1 over 2 m times v squared, right? Very basic formula. You need to know which units to use, right? For example, for the mass, we always have to use kilograms. And for the speed, for the velocity, we always have to use meters per second. So this is how they are tricking you in this question, in the sense that first, you have to convert your 10 kilonewtons into kilograms, because we have to use kilograms. And then for your velocity, you got to convert it from kilometers per hour to meters per second. And then you can put them into the formula, right? So in this case, let's think about the newtons. This might be confusing, so I'm just going to give you a simple example. If they tell you like there's a 4 kilogram object, what's its weight, right? What do? You do 4 times 10. 10 is your approximate G. It's 9.8, but always use 10 unless it's specified. And it gives you 40 newtons, right? So 40 newtons is the weight of that object. So in this case, we're given newtons. How do we convert it to kilograms? We divide it by 10, no? So you divide your 10,000 newtons into 10 and you get 1,000 kilograms. So your car is 1,000 kilograms, which is actually realistic too, because a car would be like a ton, right? If you got like 10,000 kilograms, you got something wrong, okay? So you converted your weight, easy peasy, 1,000 kilograms. Then you got to convert your velocity, which is given to you in kilometers per hour. You got to convert that to meters per second. How do you do that? Well, first convert your 90 kilometers to meters, which is 90,000 meters, right? Because 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters, right? So it's 90,000 meters divided by, you got to convert your hours into seconds. So how do you do that? Well, 1 hour has 60 minutes. Each minute has 60 seconds. So it's 1 times 60 times 60, 3,600 seconds. You cancel out the zeros. You got to divide 900 by 36. Beware that you don't have a calculator. So you got to know how to do these things yourself. But I mean, it's not that difficult. You do 900 divided by 36, that gives you 25. So 25 meters per second is your velocity. And now you're ready to put them into the formula. So 1,000 kilograms is here, right? Wait, did I put it in somewhere? Here. So number 3. 1 over 2 times 1,000 kilograms times 25, sorry. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. 25 meters per second squared will give you 320,000 joules approximately. So that's your answer. The reason why it says approximately is because we took the g as 10 meters per second, okay? Because g, the gravitational acceleration or the gravitational pull, is actually 9.8 meters per second, but it didn't give it to us, so we took it as 10 approximately. You can always take the g as 10. By the way, we use it here, right? We divided 10,000 newtons by 10, this 10, and we got 1,000 kilograms. So you can always take it as 10 unless they told you it's 9.8. Okay, and then we put it in and we get the joules, and that's it. Also, one more thing you need to know, which could be useful in other questions, is that how did we get joules? Like, how do we know that this is joules? Because you do what? You do kilograms times meters per second, right? And turns out joules is a derived unit that comes from the standard units, which is kilograms times meters squared times second to the power of -2, or divided by second squared, right? So if you multiply all these fundamental units, you'll get a derived unit, which we call joules. Energy is in joules, right? So that's how you know that it's joules and it's not like some other unit. We'll talk about in the math and physics course how it's very, very fundamental for you to know all these standard units and the derived units and etc. Okay, final question. Question number 50. This question is very easy, okay? And it very lucky for you, it keeps repeating itself. So make sure you understand what this is. These questions are usually, I know how you guys think. You see like grams, you see water, you see temperature, you're like, oh my God, I don't know anything about this. But if you actually think about it a little bit, it's a very easy question. It's just a weighted average. I'll show you with this drawing of big buckets. I don't know if I have the drawing. Yeah, I do. Okay. Imagine buckets. You have a 50-gram bucket at 20 degrees, and you have is it 300? No, it's 200. 200-gram bucket at 70 degrees. We do know by intuition that if you mix these buckets in a bigger bucket, right, of 250 grams, the temperature would be closer to this one, no? Because there's so much more of the 70-degree water, right? So you can right off the bat cross these answers because it has to be closer to 70, like just telling you basic intuition. But how do you calculate this in a very easy way? Well, you can do 50 grams times 20 plus 70. No, wait, it would have been better if I wrote it like this actually. So how much times the temperature, right? 50 grams times 20 plus 200 grams times 70 divided by total, 250. And then once you do the calculation, you will get 60 degrees. So it's just a weighted average, if you know what that is. Okay. Well, thank you so much for attending. So far, we started with 44 people. Now we have 32. But I'm glad you enjoyed this first lesson. The most important thing that you should do now is to go over the test. Okay, go over the test again, solve the questions that you didn't understand, do what I said with the reading part, analyze the text, go over to the history part, try to understand as much as you can from the questions, from the options, from what I said during this lesson. And then do the same thing for the rest of the chapters, especially for all of them, do the same thing for all of them. Like, try to understand why you got the question wrong. What's the way to do it? Did you understand it? Give it another go. See if you actually understood it. Ask me any questions if you have. And yeah, that's it. That's basically it. I'll be sending you a preliminary reading, which you should do until next week's lesson. And yeah, that's about it. And if I forgot something, I'll definitely send a message on the group. This is it. Thank you for staying so far. See you next week. Or if you took math and physics, see you in 15 minutes. And goodbye. Bye bye. Have a good weekend.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye 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 bye.
If you guys have further questions about the courses or anything related for the Politecnico di Milano or Politecnico di Torino as a studying in architecture, especially in the bachelor, you can just share your comments below. Other than that, I hope this video helps you and see you guys around.